In today's Farm Report, the University of Minnesota Extension Service Office held several land rent workshops last month, but if you weren't able to make it, never fear, they're going to hold some more this month. Emily Wilmes with the University of Minnesota Extension Service Office has more.
If you missed the land rent meeting in Little Falls last month, don't worry, there's still time to attend one of these free informative meetings. Landlords, farmland renters, and agribusiness advisors are encouraged to attend the land rent meetings being held in central Minnesota. These free meetings are being provided by University of Minnesota Extension. Farmland rental rates have never been higher, and determining a fair farm rental agreement is a challenge in today's economy, with record corn and soybean prices in 2012 and record farmland values, followed by significantly lower prices for 2014, 15, and 16. Livestock prices can also be a factor. Workshop topics will include local, historic, and projected farmland rental rate trends, current farmland values and sales, and a worksheet that will help determine a fair and profitable rental agreement. Input costs for 2016 will be presented along with current 2016 corn and soybean prices. Worksheets will examine 2016 costs and what is affordable rent that a farmer can be able to pay in 2016, the rate of return to the landlord at current market values, and it will examine flexible rental agreements. It's not too late to attend one of these informative and free meetings. Attendees will receive several informative worksheets and fact sheets that will help to determine what is a fair 2016 farmland rental rate. General information and concepts will be similar at all workshops. Some county-specific information, where available, will be shared at individual sites. Pauline Van Erden, Extension Educator in Agricultural Business Management, will lead the discussion at the upcoming Stearns and Benton County sites. We will be in Cold Spring on Friday, December 11th at 9:30 a.m. at American Legion Post 455. We will also be in Foley on Friday, December 11th at 1:30 in the afternoon at Foley City Hall. If you have any questions about these sessions, feel free to contact me at the Stearns County Extension Office at 320-255-6169. This is Emily Wilmes with University of Minnesota Extension.
Climate change may very well have an impact on our capacity to meet global food needs if we don't aggressively adapt to a changing climate.
Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack in Paris Wednesday, summarizing a new report on climate change. Report co-author Peter Backlund says it could likely affect much more than just production of food. He says without climate change mitigation,
the U.S. and other nations could see increased costs for imports and increased demand for exports. And an increased incidence of weather extremes could increase the number of food shocks and could thus increase demands for emergency assistance.
He said in the last few years, the world has reduced the number of hungry people down to roughly 800 million, but with unmitigated climate change, with faster population growth, slower economic growth,
we could see an increase of approximately 175 million hungry people.
The report says there are many ways to head that off, but Backlund said
a lot of these outcomes are really subject to future human decisions and what negotiators here do and what people all around the world do as well.
In Washington, Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
Winter is now upon us, and hopefully you prepared your facilities for the winter cold. But if you haven't, Emily Wilmes with the University of Minnesota Extension Service Office has some tips on how you can make sure that your animals stay healthy this winter.
Well, once again, December has snuck up on us, and it feels as though winter is upon us, whether we were ready or not. It's not too late to get your farm in winter-ready shape. On dairy farms, there are several components of ventilation and air quality to consider in the winter. First, think about calf barn ventilation. Calves need plenty of fresh air, even in cold weather, regardless of if your calves are in hutches or in naturally or mechanically ventilated barns. The fresh air removes moisture, ammonia, and airborne pathogens. Uniform fresh air distribution is important but difficult in calf barns. It is critical that ventilation air does not create cold air drafts. Plenty of clean, dry bedding that allows nesting helps calves retain heat and avoid drafts. While you're thinking about ventilation for your calves, also think about it for your lactating cows. It is important to provide at least 50 CFM per cow of fresh ventilation air in cold weather. More air exchange is needed to keep humidity levels below 80% when it is cold, because cold air cannot pick up much moisture. Fresh air needs to be uniformly distributed to maintain uniform conditions for all the cows. If your cows are in a naturally ventilated barn, be sure to check the curtains. Look for tears and holes or loose sections that permit uncontrolled airflow during windy weather. Holes and loose sections can allow large amounts of fresh air to enter in some barn areas, while other areas have little fresh air. Poor fresh air distribution will lead to cold, drafty spots and stuffy, humid spots. If your cows are in a mechanically ventilated barn, check your fans and inlets. Make sure that the inlets are well distributed, clear, and adjusted as needed. Cold weather fans should be checked to make sure that they run well and are lubricated. Hot weather fans will not run can be sealed off so that they do not let in cold air. Fans with shutters should be checked to make sure that the shutters close when the fans do not run. Along with cow areas, also take a look at the people areas on your dairy. Check doors on the barn, milking parlor, and other areas to make sure they close tightly and will not leak cold air in on windy days. Additionally, if there are areas such as a farm office or the milking parlor where you may use propane or natural gas heaters, make sure to check that the fresh air supply and chimney are clear and that fuel lines are not damaged. If you have any questions about winterizing your dairy farm, call me at the Stearns County Extension Office at 320-255-6169. This is Emily Wilmus with the University of Minnesota Extension.
This week in Paris, world leaders in agriculture talking about how to deal with a huge challenge facing the world.
Feeding the world while saving the planet.
While adapting to climate change and mitigating carbon.
That will require as much innovation in the next 30 to 40 years as we have experienced in the last 10,000 years.
We need to work urgently to cope with climate change.
Agricultural experts at a Paris session of the Global Alliance for Climate Smart Agriculture. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack telling the meeting there's a lot going on around the world on this. Research on new crops, new ways of growing them, new ways of adapting to changing climates, and a lot of information being generated.
But the key is making sure that we're all operating collaboratively, that we're sharing information, and we're making sure that that information isn't simply benefiting those who already have information, but is also widely distributed to folks who are in need of more help and assistance.
One of the major missions of the Global Alliance, as Vilsack said.
We have lessons to learn and lessons to share.
In Washington, Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.